Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens are going at it. Now, you've probably seen some crazy Twitter posts and videos, much like this one.
Yes, the question was about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt. I think she still works for my company. I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
Now, one thing I want to say is that there is a possibility here of Candace Owens suing the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro over hostile work environment. We're going to talk about that today. I want to get into that with going into some of the back and forth between Ben and Candace, and also some of the comments that we've seen from Jeremy Boring, which is absolutely going towards the core of this issue. Now, we've seen over the past couple days this back and forth, for those that have missed out, between Ben and Candace over the Palestinian war issue, the Israel-Palestine or Israel-Gaza conflict, however you want to say it. They've been going back and forth. Of course, Ben has a full-throated defense of Israel and pretty much anything they would want to do, while Candace Owens...
Well, I am here today to endorse Nikki Haley for president of Israel. I think she's earned that. I think Bibi Netanyahu is going through a very bad time right now. Support for Israel has virtually collapsed socially. If you're paying attention to the trends and you're paying attention to what people are watching, you're paying attention to the protests. And the one person that I think is capable of getting it back is Nikki Haley, with enough money from foreign interest lobbies.
Now, without getting into the substance of those two arguments, because I really believe that's irrelevant to the case here, the point is these two work together. They work together at the Daily Wire. They are under the same umbrella, under the same corporation. Therefore, they're co-workers. Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens are co-workers. Now, Ben Shapiro is not the CEO. He's not in a leadership position over there at the Daily Wire. I believe his title is editor emeritus. He has a very high position within the company, but he is not somebody who has control over Candace or can tell Candace what to say and not say, or can direct her what she should or should not do. However, despite that, as they've exchanged these blows on Twitter and gone back and forth, particularly over scripture, and we'll get into that in a second, but as they've gone back and forth, Ben Shapiro has encouraged her to quit, to leave, to get out, to, get out of her job. Now, Jeremy, the CEO, who's been on a leave of absence, right? So he's not in that. He's one of the co-CEOs. He is not currently in that role because he is dealing with some filming. He said that they are not going to fire Candace, that Candace is not under threat of being fired. However, in his message to me, and you can see the message right here, that it seems to me that he doesn't necessarily support the message that was put down by Candace Owens. And it seems to imply that they could fire her, but they're not going to, because their principle is to not fire people that disagree. Now, that's all well and good, so there won't be any sort of wrongful termination case if Candace Owens was fired here, but could she bring a hostile work environment claim? And the truth is, she can bring a hostile work environment claim. A hostile work environment really only requires three separate elements. So those elements are you creating a work environment that is so severely bad, it deals with harassment or discrimination or whatever other pressure, that it is changing the terms and conditions of your employment? So I'll say that again. Is the environment so bad that you are creating a environment that has changed the terms of your employment? So let's go over the specific three elements. So element number one is behavior that involves discrimination based on gender, race, religion, Now, do we have that? Well, right here, as you guys can see, we have a tweet about scripture. Now, there is a back and forth over scripture and what Candace Owens intended by the scripture post. Now, of course, we have a difference here. Obviously, Candace is coming at it from a Christian perspective, and there is Ben from a Jewish perspective. And whenever you have two different people of different religions, you have potential religious discrimination. Now, you can even have religious discrimination within a religion. That doesn't preclude a person from having religious discrimination, right? So, for example, if there's two Muslim employees, they can have religious discrimination against each other. That's perfectly possible. For example, they could interpret the Quran a different way. Maybe they're different sects. Maybe one's Shia, one's Sunni, right? So obviously there can be differences that can provoke within a religion, or let's say you practice Judaism. One might be Reform, one might be ultra Orthodox, right? So there's reasons why you might within a religion face discrimination. But here we have an interpretation of scripture by Ben Shapiro, which is taken to be hostile. It's taken to be hostile towards himself. It's taken to be hostile towards the Daily Wire. And therefore, Ben Shapiro responds to that by essentially telling her to get out, telling her to leave the job. So in that, you can say that, hey, she was posting a scripture post. She was posting something that was intended to be relating to the Bible, right, in the practice of her faith. And then Ben Shapiro came down and commented on that in a harsh way by provoking her to quit. So the second element is any person that is considered reasonable and rational would find the behavior offensive and hostile. Now, looking at this, seems like a rational person, reasonable person could find it offensive or hostile. Now, different people have different thresholds for this. Frankly, I'm a lawyer. People can argue with me a lot, can argue with me very intensely, and I do not find it offensive or hostile. But many times I've found that when I'm having a conversation with somebody, and maybe we're getting heated or passionate about an issue, other people will think we are fighting. But I think we are just having a conversation. We are just having a intellectual discussion, right? So my threshold for what is offensive and hostile is very low in the sense that I don't get offended very easily. However, that's not the standard. The standard is a reasonable and rational person. So an average person of basic reasonableness would say, that could be considered offensive or hostile. And this has changed. The Overton window has shifted. We have shifted into what we think is offensive or hostile. And in fact, many times people are thinking things that are offensive and hostile that aren't necessarily offensive and hostile. But in this case, I think a reasonable person could view the Twitter post, as hostile. And next, the conduct is ongoing, meaning it occurred more than once. Well, we have multiple tweets from Ben Shapiro. We have the comments. We have the video. So we've got a lot of different instances where Ben is conducting this behavior. It isn't something that he is just doing once. It's something that he's done repeatedly. So this is key towards hostile work environment. Now, that being said, does this mean that Candace will file? No. And there's a lot of reasons why she wouldn't want to file. Now, you can turn to Sydney Watson as a good example of why you wouldn't want to file. Sydney Watson filed a complaint against The Blaze and against Elijah Schaffer. Well, not against Elijah Schaffer, but noting Elijah Schaffer's behavior, but it's really a complaint against The Blaze. And she used a lot of these arguments based on religion, based on her gender, and saying that she was discriminated against. And this is exactly the same tactics that the woke left and woke leftists take. So Sydney Watson has largely been panned and outed as a feminist, as a leftist, as a person who has deeply held beliefs that are easy to offend, that are very fragile. She criticizes people on the left and people, feminists, for being fragile, for being weak, for being easily offended. But yet in her lawsuit, she shows that. So Candace, if she brought this claim, I believe she would lose a lot of her credibility in the movement, you could say, as a member on the anti-establishment or the right or whatever you want to call it. I think she would lose a lot of credibility. Now, listen, I'm not trying to take sides between the two because, frankly, I have issues with both Candace Owens and with Ben Shapiro. They're not perfect people. But in this scenario, if you have to ask me, can Candace Owens sue? The answer is yes. I think she does have grounds to sue for a hostile work environment. Will she? Is my prediction she will. My prediction is she, at this point, doesn't appear she will, but it's possible. It is very, very possible, especially based on some of her tweets, which have said this is unacceptable, you've crossed a line. I think it is possible that she could sue, but we will stay tuned. And on the Legal Mindset, where we teach you to be your own judge, we will stay posted on this. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to smash that like button. It really helps us get out here in the algorithm, whether you're Team Ben, Team Candace, or Team neither. It does not matter. You can like the video. It is free and really helps us out on this channel. Guys, until next time, we'll catch you later. Peace.